Hello, welcome to EWTN News In Depth. I'm Montse Alvarado. Controversy once again in the Catholic Church in Europe. This week, Cardinal Reinhard Marx, the most prominent face of Catholicism in Germany, announced his support for loosening celibacy rules and allowing some priests to marry. The comments from the Archbishop of Munich come as criticism mounts about how his diocese handled sex abuse cases over the decades. A 2-year investigation released last month faults both him as well as his predecessors, including Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, for their handling of the sex abuse crisis within the Church. Cardinal Marx spoke to a German newspaper about his celibacy recommendation on Thursday, just as the third plenary assembly of the German Synodal Path opened its 3-day meeting, in which some Catholics are calling for massive reform within the Church. Speaking to a key assembly topic, Marx called the sexual abuse scandal a disaster and expressed his view that celibacy should not be a precondition for every priest. For some priests, he said, marriage would be better for their life so that they wouldn't be lonely. To put it mildly, suggestions like this are not going over well with Catholics who follow church teachings, many of whom are already very worried about the synodal way. The German Catholic group New Beginning presented a set of concerns about potential church reforms to the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith at the Vatican, asking for clarification. The managing director of EWTN Germany, Martin Rothweiler, reports.
Many are looking anxiously at the church in Germany, which is being hit hard by the clerical abuse crisis. Priests and bishops have been warning for years that the Catholic faith in Germany is being threatened and church membership will continue to evaporate.
During the Third Synodal Way meeting, the doctrine of the Church itself is up for discussion and has been the focus of severe criticism among some participants. Part of the Synodal Assembly openly advocates the introduction of women ordination, the blessing of homosexual unions, and even puts the sacrament of the priesthood itself up for debate. A month ago, on January, worried German traditional Catholics like Peter Esser from the initiative New Beginning, Neuer Anfang, presented to the Pope a petition with nearly 6,000 signatures supporting the Church's teaching and asking for his intervention.
I heard that he said to one of our young ladies, yes, I will call Bishop Betzing. And so I think it's not just a teasing or a joke, so I really have the hope that he will do this.
The president of the German Bishops' Conference, Bishop Georg Betzing, has repeatedly defended the Synodal Way. In an interview with the German newspaper Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, he said in December, "The view from Rome in Germany as a country of the Reformation is always particularly critical. This is not easy for the project of the Synodal Way. We need a lot of communication. We want to make the Church strong, not weaker."
I think the Synodal Way has nourished hopes that he cannot fulfill without leaving the way of the Church. So the 3 things I would hope for the Synodal Way is first the gift of rediscovery of who is Jesus Christ. The second would be listening to each other. The third would be humility, and humility means not reinventing the Church as a new, but filling the Church that we have with the life that the Holy Spirit gives us.
CNA Deutsch correspondent Rudolf Gehrig has been following the Synodal Way since its beginning, and he knows that different ideas about the future of the Church collide in this project.
They claim that the abuse crisis within the Catholic Church has its origins in a celibate male society having too much power. Others, however, call for a stronger focus on Jesus Christ and the Gospel. In their view, the abuse crisis has its origins in a deep crisis of faith.
In the meantime, several thousand traditional Catholics have joined the group of Neuer Anfang, New Beginning. However, they are not only interested in criticizing the progressive faction in the Synodal Way, but seeking solutions to address those discouraged with the Church.
New Beginning, therefore, invites all Catholics to pray this novena together for the Church and for a change through Jesus Christ.
The Holy Father and Vatican officials are now aware of the doubts coming from traditional German Catholics, and the New Beginning group is hoping that Pope Francis will respond accordingly. Martin Rothweiler for EWTN News in Depth.
Martin is attending the third plenary assembly of the Synodal Path going on right now in Frankfurt, Germany. He joins us with an update on what's happened so far. Martin, it's the end of day 2 of the 3-day event for you. What reaction have you heard to Cardinal Mark's recommendation to loosen celibacy rules? And since it's against church teaching, do you think it could end up in the final recommendations from the German Synodal Way?
Well, as you mentioned, Cardinal Reinhard Marx has spoken out in favor of loosening the obligation for Catholic priests to remain celibate. In an interview with the Süddeutsche Zeitung, the Archbishop of Munich in Freising literally said, "It would be better for everyone to create the possibility for celibate and married priests." The Archbishop of Munich in Freising did not want to affirm directly that celibacy was a danger with regard to abuse. You cannot say that in general terms, he said, but this way of life and this male bonding would also attract people who are not suitable, who are sexually immature. For Marx, this celibate way of life is precarious because it promotes loneliness. Marx emphasized that he is not concerned with a general abolition of celibacy. There is no doubt that celibacy is a way to live the gospel, he stressed. But whether you should take that as a basic requirement for every priest, I do put a question mark there, explained the Cardinal. The discussion on celibacy continues to take place right here in Frankfurt during the Third Synodal Assembly, as one of the 4 synodal forums is devoted to the priestly way of life. It is quite safe that loosening celibacy will end up in the final recommendations of the Synodal Way in Germany with a vast majority.
So not necessarily getting rid of the idea of celibacy completely, but definitely putting a question mark there. And at the same time, we do know that there are some priests who have come into the church after being previously married. So that is something that I'm sure everyone is tackling. At what stage are we then in this synodal way in Germany?
The Synodal Way enters its decisive phase at this third assembly. Final decisions on some texts have already been made. The decisions require a 2/3 majority of all members of the Synodal Assembly and a 2/3 majority of the bishops. Despite the considerable objections of some bishops, such as Bishop Rudolf Voderholzer from Regensburg and Bishop Stefan Oster from Passau, an orientation text was passed with a large majority, which is to be the theological basis for the Synodal Way. In this document, the so-called signs of the times are classified among the sources and places of theology and placed on the same level as the magisterium of the Catholic Church. This stresses a time-bound nature of teaching, relativizes the importance of the magisterium, and such contradicts the Second Vatican Council and the tradition of faith. More than 86% of the participants voted in favor of the text. Of the 59 bishops present, only 16 bishops voted against it, while more than 70% of the bishops voted in favor. Some participants criticized that the decision-making process and the voting process is a farce, as the different arguments are not really taken into consideration. The basic text of orientation that has been decided on is considered by the Synodal Way as the basis for its decisions and makes clear that the Synodal Assembly is aiming at changing church doctrine. In response to the intention of the Synodal Way to change church doctrine, and especially the sexual morals of the Catholic Church, the initiative New Beginning, Neuer Anfang, sent out a public letter to all the German bishops and to around 2,000 bishops and 500 Catholic religious orders all around the world in order to warn of a new schism from Germany 500 years after the Reformation.
Very different from what we're asked to reflect on in our own synodal discussions here at home. Thank you so much, Martin. I look forward to getting an update on you on this final day of these proceedings.
You're welcome.